próximas al 10% del PIB. El Tesoro Público en el último mes también ha aumentado su emisión de deuda y la prima de riesgo empieza a subir de nuevo incluso con las compras del BCE. ¿Cuándo va a presentar el Gobierno sus previsiones?
Good evening to our colleagues and friends joining from Australia, Indonesia. Good afternoon for those who are connecting from Europe, Africa, and Middle East. And good morning for all of you who are connecting from Americas. It's great to welcome you today to our first conference on the future of meetings. This conference has a long history of Diplo working on online meetings for the last 20 years and the sprint history of last 2 months. Over the next 3 hours, as you will see, we'll try to summarize our experience and your experience from organizing and attending online meetings. Before we start with the official introduction, I would like to share with you demographic of our meeting today. And we have participants joining in this room and via streaming 571 participants from 104 countries and territories. As you can see on the map, the whole world, 5 continents are covered, which is showing an interest in future of meetings and future of diplomacy. We have also very diverse stakeholder community with 41% of participants from governments and international organizations, followed by NGOs, 25% academia, private sector, technical community, media, and others. Therefore, the theme of the future of meetings and future of diplomacy is attracting quite a broad attention of communities worldwide and different stakeholders, which is the spirit of today's discussion. As you can see, I'm wearing today tie, and a few colleagues commenting about it. This is the first time after 2 months that I'm wearing tie for online meeting. It is in a way transition from very informal meetings, online meetings, to probably more formal in situ or hybrid meetings. And around these 3 elements, online, in situ, hybrid, will be focusing our attention. I will also shortly make another transition by replacing my virtual background with the background of the building where my office is hosted here in Geneva. Therefore, transition, 3 types of meetings are a few keywords that we'll explore today. Without further ado, I would like to invite you to listen to the message from Anthony Hodgers, the President of the Canton and the Republic of Geneva. Please.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank DiploFoundation and its director for this opportunity to be among you through this record message. We live in interesting times, times of risk and uncertainty, but also times to reflect about our society and our future. I believe that International Geneva, through its humanitarian values, innovation and global cooperation, can play a key role to support resilience. The good news is that it didn't stop working because of current situation. On the contrary, its actors experienced new ways of doing business while adjusting their focus on answering the pandemic on its numerous dimensions. Geneva is all about meeting and exchanges. In normal times, hundreds of thousands of delegates meet here every year. It is amazing to notice how quickly the community adapts to teleconferencing. Virtual meetings need to be carefully prepared, moderate, and follow up. I know that DiploFoundation has a lot of knowledge to share about this, and its precious support is very much appreciated. Despite these challenges, the crisis has shown us the virtual meeting work. Now, we should not forget that meeting is not an end in itself. Meetings within International Geneva serve a higher goal, which is to contribute to a more peaceful, just and sustainable world. International Geneva has the ambition to produce global public goods. In order to do so, it must be constantly connected with real needs and expectations. Over time, we have seen progress in this respect. Every year, about 30 new NGOs make the choices of Geneva, and almost all countries are now permanently represented here. New actors like cities are emerging. I am convinced that new technology can bring significant leap forward by allowing many more actors to join the global conversation. But they need to be safe, accessible, and sustainable. One day, the pandemic will be over, and we will be able to meet again in person. I'm looking forward to it. But if thanks to an increased use of virtual meetings, we manage to have a more inclusive, fair, and sustainable International Geneva, we will be reinforced by this crisis and create better conditions for resilience. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all a good online conference.
Special thanks to the President Hodgers for a really comprehensive message from International Geneva, one of the main venues of international meetings with more than 10,000 meetings held every year, and also message with a few key words, which is resilience, sustainability, inclusivity. And I'm sure that during today's discussion and conversation, we will build on the few messages that President outlined in his welcome address. Now, he mentioned resilience as one of important aspects. And our next speaker is in the center of the, let's say, interplay between digital and health and pandemics. Bernardo Mariano is the Chief Information Officer of the World Health Organization and Director for Digital Health and Innovation. We asked him to join us today and to bring us that perspective from the trenches of the fight against pandemic. Bernardo, please let us know a few introductory points that you would like us to cover during today's conference.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or bonjour, or bon dia, depending on where you are. COVID-19 is changing some of the values and some of the principles that we are used to, the ones that we are accustomed to a new normal. And within this change, the work of governance, diplomacy, international relations, but also all the economic and social interactions and systems are also at a tremendous stress. As we go through this pandemic, which is not going to go away tomorrow because this is the virus, we don't have a vaccine yet, the need for diplomacy, collaboration, and solidarity, as Dr. Tedros would say, it's key, because that's how we can actually overcome and navigate successful through these different phases of the pandemic. And technology is one of the areas that is helping us to fight COVID-19. I always say that if we are fighting COVID-19, it means there's a war against COVID-19, and that war has three battlefronts. One is the clinical side, the medical side, the drugs and the vaccines. The other is the digital solutions, and the third one is a cyber war or cyber security war, because we are also facing a number of cyber attacks. both as WHO, but also many other players and many other entities and governments in this space. So therefore, we need to adjust to new circumstances. Now, on the meeting side, WHO uses the three technologies right now, the Teams, Zoom that we are using right now, as well as Cisco WebEx. But the key to successful navigate through these phases of the pandemic is preparedness. So we started that digital journey before the pandemic. And pandemic accelerated the adoption. In my 25 years of professional experience, I've never seen such a fast adoption to tools, digital tools, especially for meetings. We had 1,000 users using Microsoft Teams. In 1 month, we had 8,000 users using Microsoft Teams. So these new reality require new skills and new expertise to work and collaborate online, but also brings to question whether we need the usual office environment to be productive, because at WHO, our productivity did not reduce, even though 90% of our workforce is working from home. So in this conference and the graduation ceremony of the first course on online meetings, we want to call for a reflection, to use the opportunity to reflect on the future of diplomacy, because that's key. Because what you see behind the scene, or on all the messages that we pass, there's a diplomacy happening to ensure that the collaboration and the solidarity takes place. So as we move in this accelerated fashion, we also need to look at how this technology can help, both on artificial intelligence as well as virtual reality and augmented reality. So just want to take this opportunity to encourage the Diplo and other diplomatic academics, to including the ones from International Forum on Diplomatic Training, as well as students and researchers, and as including just anyone out there, to continue to build on discussions such as the one of today, to bring that new experience, the new reality, or the new normal, where the virtual meetings and meeting using technologies such as a virtual reality and assisted augmented reality to the next level. So I want to just assure you that at WHO, we are very pleased and very grateful to continue this discussion by sharing our experience of working online and remain productive, ensuring that also new skills are acquired, including skills around this blurred line between work and home, work and social balance. So let me just stop here and say again, thank you for first of all having invited us to join this forum, but also wishing you all a very productive couple of hours of a virtual meeting using what is tomorrow's normal in today's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernardo, for really setting stage nicely for our discussion. Also reassuring is that from the center of the fight against pandemic, we have very efficient and active digital support. You highlighted a few extremely important points. One is acceleration of digitalization. There is some jokes that COVID-19 did more for digitalization than thousands of conferences and meetings and board decisions. It is in a way collateral impact of the COVID-19. And you highlighted some of the points raised in the number of the users in your online platform, and definitely we at Diplo and our colleagues at diplomatic training institutions worldwide will follow on your call and Dr. Tedros' leadership in using advanced technologies and preparing diplomats for this fast emerging world, which is not anymore something of the future, it is becoming today's reality. Now, in the spirit of conversation that our meeting will be held, I will invite two colleagues from Diplo who are doing research on conferences in our ConfTech lab to reflect on two aspects. One is the question of meetings and the environment, and second is on the guiding principles for online meeting. First, Dr. Stephanie Boch-Psaila, Director of Digital Policy at Diplo, will tell us more on this interesting interplay between meetings and the question of environment, and in particular climate change. Steph, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jovan. I'll jump straight in then. As we all know, due to COVID-19, there have been several travel restrictions and social distancing rules. I think we've all been affected. There is also an increase in the number of people working online, including attending meetings and other events online, which is basically what we're doing today. But one of the, as you mentioned, Jovan, one of the unexpected consequences of this shift to the digital space is related to the environment. Probably not, we might not be giving it enough attention. So what is the impact on the environment? And that's quite simple. Since traveling and the activity from industry have gone down sharply, carbon emissions from these activities have also gone down. NO2 emissions, which normally come from vehicles, for instance, have seen a drop, obviously. And in fact, what the slide here says, if you can see it on the main screen, is that there has been quite a drop in these emissions compared to the same period last year. So the graph shows April 2020 percentages, and those are a decrease compared to last year. So the decrease was quite substantial. But of course, not all the activity has decreased. For instance, our electricity consumption has more or less remained the same. And the fact that we have shifted online has actually increased our use of technology and, for instance, the activity of server farms, which also account for carbon emissions. And so the reduction in emissions from certain activities doesn't mean that the climate change challenge is far from over, unfortunately. And in fact, as this second slide, the second table shows, the overall emissions have actually increased since pre-industrial times. But the fact remains that some of the emissions have indeed decreased. And in some cities, there is less pollution. This is reported in journals. Major cities have less pollution. You might have also felt it ourselves. And so the question is, will this drop in emissions last beyond COVID-19? So what will happen after the pandemic? We think there is a good chance that this drop will be sustained. From the point of view of our working environment, I think we're realizing that working from home does have several benefits for the environment. Well, not just for the environment, but as we're saying here, from the lower emissions, definitely advantages for the environment. And if we look specifically at online meetings, most likely we will see a hybrid form of on-site and online meetings. And in fact, this hybrid form is perhaps the optimal solution for the future of meetings. And in today's conference, this is what we will look at: how this hybrid form can actually be implemented and how we can move effectively to the online way of meeting, of having discussions, of voting, etc. So that was a brief overview of one of the impact on the environment. Floor back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steph, for a great summary and pointing to this counterintuitive element. We always think that the crisis reduced the production of carbon footprint, but there is one dynamics that we should follow carefully. There is an emission from air traveling, but there is also increased emission from the server farms and the use of digital technology, including Zoom and other energy demanding services online. Therefore, that research needs to be more precise than it is currently. It's more intuitive all over the world. Now, our next speaker is Virginia Ginger Pak, who has been a researcher with Diplo for quite some time. Ginger has three great passions in her work. One is to promote e-participation, second is to increase multilingualism, and third is to ensure that people with disabilities have access to online meetings. A few years ago, and she will explain, she started reducing confusion in discussion on remote participation by proposing guidelines and principles, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And it was at that time more exotic exercise, but now it is becoming mainstream. And Ginger will introduce a draft of the guidelines and principles for the future of the meetings. Ginger, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good to see you here. As Jovan mentioned, in 2008, e-participation was an emerging issue and highlighted by the work at the 2008 IGF to integrate functioning e-participation in the Internet Governance Forum meeting. As we worked on e-participation solutions for meetings, we started thinking about a set of principles and guidelines out of practical necessity to highlight priorities, reduce complexities, and make online options for meetings more efficient and inclusive, and to demonstrate that online participation in these meetings was an indispensable part of meetings. Now, from being somewhat of a disruptive side issue, with more and more meetings held online, e-participation has become a main issue, not only as a solution to our current global challenges, but for reducing our global footprint, for better representation, and very importantly, for inclusion on all levels, including issues of disabilities, which is a focus that we're working very hard on. The development of the e-participation principles started at the 2011 IGF in Nairobi and continued in Baku, in Bali, and then the previous draft was presented at the IGF 2015 in Brazil. Using a system of collaborative editing, many people have contributed to the development of these principles and guidelines. As Jovan mentioned during our online meetings for diplomacy and global governance course, a group of 40 participants, diplomats, experts, academics, journalists, drafted the current version of the principles and guidelines. This is the first update since 2015. The 6 main headings underline important principles. While they are not arranged in order of importance, it's no coincidence that number 1 is inclusiveness, given that E, or online participation, is a way for more people, sometimes all people, to be able to join for common purposes. The other principles and their guidelines all support the first section, which is inclusiveness, followed by equality of participation, scale and scalability, capacity building, platform forms, and integrating e-participation into meetings. Inclusiveness also highlights the needs, and you will see them in the principles, of persons with disabilities of all kinds, which is a high priority because it's a basis for bringing in unheard voices and those that have a difficulty participating. We will be drafting a new version, and this process will start soon. And we hope will include your comments and suggestions. We would like to contribute these principles and guidelines for the UN 75th anniversary session in New York in September. So you'll be hearing from us, and we'll be hoping for your work on this. Think about it, join us, let's get it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginger, for this summary and putting discussion on online meetings and future meetings in broader policy context and question of enabling and inclusivity and equality of participation. Now we'll provide a quick summary, bringing together all of these threads from introductory statement around our approach to this meeting, centered around the three layers which were already outlined by our colleagues, from the online meetings via hybrid meetings to in situ meetings. That dynamic will dominate our meetings in the forthcoming period. Therefore, online on outer remit, what we are doing now, blended on hybrid meetings, which will be probably the most interesting aspect, and on-site on our physical meetings. As we already heard during discussion, there will be 5 main threads that we will have throughout the meeting. We'll cover the question of technology, we'll cover the question of moderation, security, diplomacy, and behavioral aspect, or one can call it emotions. Now, many of you already made the comments in the text chat, and since today's meeting will be a real collaborative discussion, let me summarize a few comments in just a few minutes before we close today's session, the first opening session. A comment from Eric Kaufmel on disability and as a tool and topic. We got a few comments and Ginger highlighted it. 15% of the world population has a certain level of disabilities, and it is of utmost importance to include all of them through the captioning and other tools. And we will be discussing in various sessions during our conference. Sarah brought the question of innovation in Africa, the needs of African leaders to recognize efforts by youth and other communities. And she also suggested IEEE Smart Villages project. Jerome highlighted the project that he's starting with Graduate Institute. Trisha mentioned the example from Singapore on the question of waste management, a new type of delivery services. Glenn was a bit skeptical about use of AI for the captioning. We'll discuss it in multilingualism session. Therefore, already quite a few points. Kishan asked to what extent these principles will be accepted by UN and its agency. We don't know. Kishan will try to outline them and see what will be the reaction. The key is the drafting of these principles has to be inclusive and reflecting different communities worldwide. Now, like at any good conference, I would like to invite you for a conference photo. As you know how it goes, our photographer is ready, but what you have to do now is to, if you feel like, switch on your camera or upload your photo and smile, and we will tell you in a few seconds. Our photographer will make a conference photo and later on share with you. Therefore, how does it go? Counting 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now smile. Okay, we have a great smiles. Thank you. With this, we're closing our session just on time. The time management, as you will see, is extremely important. We're closing the plenary session. Now you will be moving to the track sessions following discussion on 5 tracks. The easiest way to navigate this is to go to meetings, diplomacy, edu/live, and from that, connect to the specific session where you would like to participate. The key is a conversation, participation in an engaging discussion. Make your points in text chat or ask for the floor. We will be having 2 iterations of these sessions before coffee break. In coffee break, there will be even smokers corner, then another 2 sessions, and then plenary meeting. Have a lot of fun. Participate in this conversation, bring your experience and expertise, and see you soon in one of the rooms. Therefore, meetings, diplomacy edu/live. If you have any problem, we have quite a few volunteers with indication help desk. Just click on help desk and you will be assisted. Bye-bye.